How's it going, folks? This is Sherv back for an actual talking video. I wasn't sure how to start or where to start. Normally I have no more than 2 rows of albums on the floor. Right now I have 4, even though they're not full, so to say. But I took some records out that I know I want to show. And maybe I'll go back here and see what we got. Playing right now, been listening to this a lot. It's Jerry Stiven and Pierre Favre, Excursions. Duets, drums. Steven plays all kinds of reeds, recorders, something called a crumhorn, folk pipe, bass clarinet, all kinds of different things here. This is a great cover. The Superfon label is a double. Playing side 3. Love the Superfon label. Out of Czechoslovakia. Yeah. Great one here. This was recorded in 1979. Yeah, this is from 81. So there's actually been a lot of activity for me this year. Met up with Alex twice. One of them last month, sometime the first week or 2 of January. And Jim came out. He wanted to go to Amoeba, and schedules aligned, and Alex was able to make it, so the 3 of us hopped in a car and drove to Hollywood, California. And as it was leading up to that Amoeba visit, I had one album in mind. Somehow this album popped in my head that I want to get it. If they have it, I want to get it. And it's something that's not really up front on my radar at all. But like I say, these things somehow, it popped in my head. And as soon as it popped in my head, okay, I want to get it. Ashra Temple Swinging Gun. Yeah, they had this reissue. It's the first thing I looked for when we got in the store. And after that, I felt like, okay, I'm kind of fine. The more I was looking around, the more I realized this album I have in my hand suits me just fine. I did end up getting a few records. I think 5 records. Everything else was put in my hand, shown to me by either Alex or Jim. And before I forget, yeah, I wanted to show this. This is one of the albums I also got. Alex brought this up to me. He knows I wanted this. And yeah, fantastic. Double album. Valentina Goncharova. That booklet in here. This is I think on the Motoric one of his streams, I think from last year, live stream, he played the last song on here, "Return to the Ocean," and I was floored, and I asked him about it, and so I ended up bringing this album to me, and it's really nice, nice piece of work right here with the booklet in there. It's fat, feels nice, but the only thing is, I can't find a sleeve to put over it, so I'm gonna have to work on that. So I got the Asherah temple there. Let's start. I think Kit has been waiting to see this for a while. Early in the year, he did a Kim Simmons tribute from Savoy Brown, and I noticed he had the same records I have of Savoy Brown. I think they're second through their sixth. Stuff like Raw Sienna, Looking In, Blue Matter. But I noticed, he didn't have the first album, first Savoy Brown, and I never had it either. It's one of these things that I've never seen a copy of it, because I don't think it was released in the States, or I'm not sure exactly. But after that video, we were commenting back and forth about this album, the first album, and I decided to go on Discogs just to see, and there was a copy that I guess is considered relatively affordable by a lot of people. It's still high for me, but I decided, what the hell, I'm gonna go for it. And so I got the first Savoy Brown finally, after 35 years or more of being on the lookout. This is the original lineup with Bryce Porteous on vocals, and Leo Manning's drums. Martin Stone guitar after this. I think everyone left except for Kim Simmons. And you got a new band, and that became, I guess, what you call the classic lineup, up until about 71 with Chris Yulden, Lonesome Dave, and but it's great to have this. Kim Simmons, man, he's a lifer. He kept the Savoy Brown name going for 50 years. Just constant lineup changes, just chugging along. And it's people like that I totally respect, because he never got the fame and notoriety, even like a Gary Moore. He wasn't known to that level, but he just kept it going. Full lifer. And another long time on the lookout for, this is Jimmy Johnson, Tobacco Road. This is on the MCM label out of France. And these albums are really difficult to come by in the States. I happened to see one. This was at Dusty Groove, and I jumped on it. MCM French label. This is recorded by Marcel Morgantini, who she received an inheritance, not huge, but sizable inheritance. And so what she decided to do with the inheritance money is go to Chicago, from France to Chicago, and just check out some of these blues clubs. And that's what she was into. She was really into American blues, electric American blues. And she came back. Once she came, I think, with her son and her husband, and met all these guys, Jimmy Dawkins, Jimmy Johnson, Hip Link Chain, and Magic Slim. Went back to France, came back to Chicago with some recording equipment and set up in some of these clubs and bars and recorded a bunch of these guys over this, like 2 or 3 visits over a year and a half, 75, 76, and released these all in France. It was only in France at the time. And this is everything on this, of these recordings, because I have a few CDs. I actually have a CD box set of this stuff. It's just some of the most raw, blistering blues. Some of these shows were recorded afternoon sets with, you can hear there were probably like 6 people in the bar, but they're still playing all out. And yeah, this was recorded at the Golden Slipper in Chicago. There's stuff recorded at Ma Bee's, a couple other places. Yeah, it's fantastic stuff. And another thing I've been listening to is this Butch Morris, cornetist. He's mainly associated with David Murray, played with David Murray. And this is a later release, and he kept going after this. It's from '87. And this is the kind of album where Butch Morris, he slotted in as a jazz guy. He's a jazz musician, a jazz composer, but this is not jazz. This is very avant-garde and experimental in some ways. He did like spontaneous, I forget the term, he came up with some term, like conducting people playing improv music. And yeah, there's a lot of players on here. Butch Morris is the cornet, Vincent Chansey on French horn, Curtis Clark is on piano, Eli Fountain, Pierre Dorge is on guitar on this. And yeah, really, really just interesting, thoughtful music. There's some voice on here, Shelley Hirsch. It's kind of that high-pitched voice. Sometimes it's hard to tell if is she doing wordless vocals or is this a different language? But it's kind of high-pitched. But the good thing I like about it is somehow the way it was recorded, and this was recorded live in West Berlin, is that her voice is in the background, the backdrop. It's not up front, like she's far away from the mic. And that to me creates a nice sort of sound presence. Yeah, excellent stuff. Butch Morris. He did albums up through the 90s, maybe 2000s. Yeah, I came upon this. Trying to remember where. This Contemporary Music Society and Soul, and 1982. And from what I could figure out, there's an album like this for each year, representing each year, compositions written by, on here, 5 different composers, Korean composers. I think, if I remember right, it might have been like from 1977 to 84, something like that. And this is very interesting stuff. This is a little experimental. Yeah, I don't know any of these composers. They all look, well, a couple of them look young. But this was released in Korea, though the notes are all in English. Yeah, I love coming across this kind of stuff. I mean, it's usually cheap and just go for it. And a couple other albums I wanted to be sure to show. Some newer things, 2022 releases. I don't get into, I mean, I try to go for things that are current, new, but I have a hard time deciding what I want to get because I don't want to just start buying stuff because I know I'm not going to like everything. But this is a couple albums on Astral Spirits label, out of New York, and they're a really great label, and their stuff is cheap. Uh, Joe McPhee, Survival Unit, Art of Flight for Alvin Fielder. Alvin Fielder was a drummer in the AACM part of that. And this is a trio. It's got a nice insert in here. Cello, drums, and Joe McPhee. Yeah, this is kind of out. Maybe not everyone's bag. And the other one released 2022. I just went for this because of the cover and the names. Tashi Dorji and Susie Ibarra, Master of Time, Astral Spirits also. And this was released in either 2021 or 2022, recorded in 2019. Live performance commissioned for the exhibition of Bardo Now, the Second Buddha. Say where? At the Tang Teaching Museum, which I believe is in New York, not New York City. Yeah, beautiful cover. This is guitar, electric guitar and drums, which is really nice. It's almost, I wouldn't say it's ambient, but it's close to that with the electric guitar. And yeah, so I got some things here on the floor. Let's see. Oh, here we go. A couple weeks ago, I don't know why, something compelled me to go to the Cadence Jazz label site. I had the Barbara Donald albums in my head, I think, and I just wanted to see what they have. Do they sell stuff still? And yeah, they still sell their old stock. 40-year-old unopened albums. And I just said screw it and got 7. Yeah, so I got and one of them I got is that Butch Morris. The Butch Morris isn't on Cadence. It's on Sound Aspect, but they had this. So I picked that up too, along with 6 on Cadence. So 2 Barbara Donalds with Carter Jefferson on sax, and these were recorded. This one was recorded in Olympia, Washington, live at the New Delhi, GNU Delhi, and this is from '82 studio in Seattle. Yeah, great stuff here. Really high octane, I guess you could say. And along the same lines is this Hugh Brody and Impulse. Hugh Brody, saxophonist, and I don't know any of the rest of the band. Russ Scotty, Jay Friedman, Larry Hamm, Pat O'Leary, Ed Ornowski, and this is recorded in '81. This is just a firestorm of hard bop, you could say. These albums, I noticed with these Cadence albums, they're meant to be played loud. It's not really quiet music. This William Hooker Orchestra with Roy Campbell and Booker T. Booker T. Williams, that is, tenor saxophonist. This is outstanding. There's no bass player on here. Just drums, trumpet, and sax, but William Hooker is just all over the place. Heavy. Yeah, the color circle. and Marilyn Crispell with Billy Bang, John Betch, and on one song Wes Brown on guitar. Another one. If people enjoy listening to music that's a little difficult, yeah, this is a good one to get. This is from 80, recorded in 81 and 82. Yeah. And this Calaparouche, Rams Run, Maurice McIntyre. This is with Julius Hemphill, Malachi Thompson, and J.R. Mitchell on drums. No bass on this either. And this is really, I noticed with this and the Barbara Donalds, there's definitely an Ornette Coleman thing happening here. Because in the 70s, it wasn't all about Coltrane and that spiritual stuff. Ornette Coleman was, his influence, went on. And this is a nice one. And all these albums on Cadence, they were under $20. I think one was 20, and the others are, $15, $16, $17 range. And they're out of Redwood, New York. Yeah, it's a great site for people to look into. Let's see, finish that. Let me put on something else. Yeah, before I forget, I should mention a book that I read. I'll show here. Put this. This is Pan Ra. This is an album. So before the Amoeba trip with Jim and Alex came over about a month earlier, and we exchanged some records, and this is one of them. Pan Ra, music from Atlantis. Leader is Hungarian, Chobo Conch, and Michel Puetois of France. Poitou. Look at these guys. Yeah, fantastic stuff. So yeah, believe it or not, I read this book, Flea, his memoir, and yeah, really interesting book. It's it's not so much that I'm a Chili Peppers fan at all, but I found out about this, and somehow I felt like, yeah, this could be interesting, because I know he grew up in L.A., so I just like reading about people's experiences in L.A., and he's a few years older than me, so also getting that perspective, like this was what was going on, like in that kind of group, not a generation, but just that older group who were born in the early 60s. This is what was going on with them when I was 10, 8, 9, 10. So yeah, cool book. This one comes with the bonus chapter. I did not read the bonus chapter. For some reason, I just stopped. But yeah, cool book, Flea. Really interesting stuff in there I didn't know about. He started out as a trumpeter. He loved Dizzy Gillespie, Lee Morgan, all those guys, and wanted to be a trumpeter. So I've been going to LA more frequently than I normally have done in the past. And where I'm at there on the west side, the closest store, there's a store, Record Surplus, that I just kind of pop in uh, every time I'm there or every other time. And Record Surplus, I probably told this story before. That's the store at the old location where basically I really started all this, because it was my discovery of a used or any store that sold used stuff. Probably in 84, 85. I was in ninth grade. And I used to take the bus to school. Not the school bus, public transportation. And one day I noticed this sign outside a building on Pico, Record Surplus, and it had what's now their iconic caricature of the guy with the record player in front of him. So when I was coming home that day from school, I decided to it was about halfway between where I lived and the school. So I got off the bus at that stop and went in and was completely blown away. I didn't know there was these stores like this where they sold used records for $1, $2. So yeah, I ended up not I took my bus money that I was given every week or month and started walking to school and walking back and going into Record Surplus, buy a few albums a week. So I still go there, even though it's moved, it's not the same. It's still nice, reliable place to go at this point. And they seem to get regularly, I see new stock of classical, like modern classical 20th century world music. And I've been, they seem to always have these nonesuch. So I got this Charles Warren chamber concerto for cello and 10 players, ringing changes, percussion ensemble, the contemporary contrabass, New American Music by John Cage, Pauline Oliveros and Ben Johnson, young Pauline Oliveros, and the CRI, they get a lot of these CRIs. Ramon Zupko, this is a very interesting record. There he is there. And yeah, CRI. This is a really interesting album. And classic, Black Host, New Music for Organ, William Bolcom and William Albright. This was a couple bucks. I had to get it just because someone wrote on there, no good. So we got those. Oh, here's another one. This contemporary music from Norway on Philips. This is really nice. Solo piano. Different Norwegian composers. Einar Steen Nokleberg on piano. And it might have been my last talking video. I showed a William Grant Still record, and Chris, John Coltrane 68, asked me in the comments if I ever, or do I have any of the Black Composers series albums on Columbia, and I'm like, no, I never see those. And it always seems to happen with Chris, this ESP. Anytime something comes up, shortly after the interaction, I come upon this box set, 9 LPs. It's all, I think there were 9 records in the series. This is all 9 of them. And it'd be cool to have individual, but I saw this and I'm like, you gotta be kidding me. I've never seen this either. And it comes with a booklet, and it's in its own sleeve. Yeah, Columbia, and goes through all the composers represented here. Hale Smith, Adolphus Hailstork, William Grant Still is in here. Talib, this is someone I don't know. Talib Rasul Hakim, born in 1940. So this is something here by him from the 60s. David Baker. So the booklet. Yeah, so gotten through a couple records of this, but man, Samuel Coleridge Taylor, it's just awesome to have come across this. I think came out in 78 or 79. Yeah, Black Composer Series. I've hit 30 minutes. I was thinking to myself, can I keep this under 30 minutes? Yeah. So Alex was here. We exchanged records, and this is another one he brought me. Piano music of the Middle East, folkways, Turkey, Lebanon, Israel, Iran, Greece. I kind of remember when Greece was sometimes put in with the Middle East. So we listened to some albums, hung out for a while, and the first one I remember we put on is this Turkish Women at the Bath, Pete LaRocca, and this, I hadn't listened to this in a while. I used to listen to this constantly. Man, this still sounds so good. John Gilmore, it's a quartet. Chick Corea, Walter Booker, and yeah, John Gilmore is just woo. Yeah, a rare non-Sun Ra appearance for Gilmore. And this was released, this came out in 67. This was reissued under Chick Corea's name, an album called Bliss on Muse, which is probably easier to find. And this Robert Wood threw on, this sounded really good, with Steve Potts. And Robert Wood plays vibes, Ken Carter bass, Ron Pittner drums. Yeah, this sounded really nice too. Doesn't have a year, 71, recorded in Paris. And I broke out this Juma Sultan's Aboriginal Music Society, Whispers from the Archive. This is good, it's a double. Juma Sultan, I know his name going way back because he was with Hendrix's band at Woodstock. And yeah, throwing on a side, maybe two of this. James Blood Ulmer is on a couple tracks. There's flute, oboe. Some of it is really funky but raw. Some of it is spiritual. Yeah, great stuff here. And I think that might do it. Okay, I'll show the last one. We didn't play this when Alex was here, but we looked at it. It's still out. Unity with Byron Morris and Jay Clayton. This is a wild ride, but excellent. It's one of these albums, I don't know, I've had this 25 years, something like that, and I didn't know what it was, but with the cover and those photos back there, I was like, yeah. So yeah, I guess that'll do it. Pan Ra playing in the background. I had thought to maybe just go over to the floor and flip with the camera. I like doing that kind of thing. So yeah, 34 minutes. I think I've gone on for like 37 before, so this is all right. Everyone, take it easy.